Hello and welcome to ACS Golf and today's video. Before we get into it, I do apologise about my voice. I am potentially about to lose it. Playing a Vets rugby game last night probably wasn't the best idea I've ever had as well when I'm getting ill, but anyway, gotta love it. So just bear with me. Hopefully we'll make it to the end of the video and you'll be able to understand everything I say, but let's wait and see. Now, today is a versus video. So this is where I put two clubs against each other to find out an overall winner. Basically, normally what I do is I take a newer model and put it up against the older model to prove to you guys that potentially you don't need to go out and spend $400, $500 on a brand new club. You can go out and spend £200, $200 on the second-hand one and still get exactly the same performance for a fraction of the price. And today is a big one, to be fair, because I've got the iconic, make sure I've got the right one in my hand, here we go, the iconic Cobra F9 driver from 2019, and I'm putting it against last year's Darkspeed model. Now, this is the Darkspeed that I did the reverses video with. I will say this is just the Palm Tree Crew one, just different colorings. The actual Darkspeed X is exactly the same as all the other models, so you know, even though it's not all black out, it is exactly the same. So don't think this is a different one, it's just a different coloring. Little thing that from my collection, to be honest. I actually played the Darkspeed X last year, the normal black version, and I loved it. Fairway finder, fairway finder, fairway finder. Definitely one of my favorite clubs that I've ever used. So I'd be really interested to see how it performs against the iconic F9. Now, don't get me wrong, Cobra's been around for years, but this really sort of put them back on the map, because not only did it perform just as well as the big boys, it was at a fraction of the price at the time as well. Very, very popular driver. So, as always, what we're going to do is we're going to have a closer look at these two clubs, come back here, talk about the technology that's in both of them and where they might slightly differ, and then get down to the range, show some shots of both of these, and then come back here and find out about an overall winner. All right, without further ado, let's have a closer look at these clubs. So there you go, and two very good looking drivers, but quite similar in the shape, to be fair. Don't get me wrong, very bulbous on the top. Well, not actually as bulbous as this one. So this is very aerodynamic. You know, when the Aerojet came out a couple of years ago, you know, it was all about aerodynamics, and that's where Darkspeed came from. And this is where the DS Adapt, you know, this year's model again has come from that, you know, very much building on the aerodynamics, because Cobra are like, well, we can't improve the face anymore. We can't do this because you're not allowed to because of all the constraints. So let's increase the club head speed, which we can potentially do to get more distance, because then you're going to be swinging faster. And that's the whole point of this sort of line, and the Aerojet before it. So it's definitely a little bit more sleeked out, slimmed out, I'd say, looking from side to side with the F9. While the F9, you know, very much had that sort of bit of inertia generator, a little bit like the old, I don't know if I'm allowed to say that, but a little bit like the old TaylorMades. You know, they have that, and even they still do actually. The QI35 that I played this year still has that sort of shape on the bottom there, but still a very good looking club there. And they've tried to do a little bit aerodynamics there on the top. Not too sure I particularly like that. It just makes the top a little bit too fussy, while, you know, the Darkspeed, normally that would be black. It's a bit different when you got a palm tree right there, but I mean, this is a lovely thing, by the way. I do love the whole like sort of palm tree idea from Cobra. Massive fan of that. They always stick me on a beach somewhere in the Caribbean. I absolutely love it. But really going down the tangent there, aren't we? But anyway, yeah, beautiful, beautiful, very simplistic on the top normally with just that black, which I really, really enjoyed. So there you go. Now let's quickly get into the technology that's in both these clubs. So you both have two movable weights, so we can swap, basically have the heavyweight at the back there in both these clubs. The idea to help well, help increase launch, obviously help increase MOI, so more forgiveness for that weight at the back, and then you can put the heavier weight at the front on both of them with the idea that it decreases launch but also makes it a lot more lower spinner. So therefore, if you've got a quicker swing speed, you can do that to try and hit some really big bombs. Lofting wise, you know, these can both go up by 1.5 degrees with the original Cobra adapter. Obviously, you've got the brand new DS adapter, which basically, there's so many options out there. It's crazy. It's really quite cool, actually, because I've been playing the Max recently and really been enjoying that adapter. So there you go. But yeah, both of these could be lofted up by 1.9 degrees and down by 1.9 degrees as well. And then coming in, and obviously both got carbon fiber on the top, obviously a lot more carbon fiber in this one. In the Darkspeed X, you've got more carbon fiber on the bottom there. And you got like this ultra carbon fiber wrap here which goes around. I don't think you've got any on the bottom of this either, so there you go. So a lot more carbon fiber in this one over this one. Now on to differences. So the main difference and the main talking point here is at the front of these clubs. So basically, Cobra brought out this CNC milled face. The idea that it helped with forgiveness and ball speed by milling the face. I actually really quite enjoyed this. I really quite enjoyed the feel of it. And they did that until the LTDX, which was 2023 Aerojet Darkspeed 24. Yeah, so 2022, the LTDX was a fantastic driver, by the way. Absolutely loved it. Another fairway finder for me at the time. And, you know, they had that there. Really enjoyed the feel of it as well. But then when they got to the Aerojet, they're like, we don't actually need this anymore. We've got this new power bridge, which is in the sole here, with the idea that that helps on miss hits, that helps retain the ball speed. So we don't need this anymore. So they actually took it out from the Aerojet and they haven't looked back. A bit of a shame, because I'm like, well, could you not just have both of them? I mean, if this technology did work, then why remove it? Why not have both? But, you know, they changed it, and rather than going CNC mill face, they've now got this hot face, which, to be fair, you know, their clubs are performing really, really well, so cannot complain about that. And you can hear, so I hear the screws moving around there, just noticed. So can't complain at all. But that's the main difference. That's the main talking point between these clubs. CNC milled face. Now we've got the hot face with the power shell technology. All right. So there's a quick look at the differences between these two clubs. Remember, if you want full in-depth reviews, the Darkspeed X is already on the channel. This one, the F9, is actually coming out this weekend, so do wait to see that. However, I'll give you a quick insight into the ACS Golf scale anyway at the end of this video as I compare these two. All right, without further ado, let's get down to the range. Unfortunately, a little bit of a brisk, not brisk, it was actually quite mild, but a very windy day, and of course that wind was going into my face. So, you know, you're still going to pick a winner, but it's just a shame. I would have really liked to see what the max distance of both of these were, and it was tapered a little bit by that wind, but still, you're hitting the same ball, hitting the same shaft, by the way, which I did use. The Ventus 6S blue here. In both clubs set at 10.5 degrees and both with their weight at the back. So there you go, completely neutral settings on both of them. But yeah, so let's just wait and see what those results are. All right, let's get down to the range.
So here I'm down at the range with the F9 and the Darkspeed. So a couple of shots with the F9 and a couple of shots with the Darkspeed. Now let's jump straight into those figures. So with the F9, I had an average of 246 yards carry, 260 yards total distance, ball speed 157 miles per hour, launch angle 11 and height 95 feet. While with the Darkspeed, I had a carry of 243 yards, total distance of 258 yards, ball speed 159 miles per hour, launch angle 9 and height 80 feet. Both clubs really happy with those numbers, especially the fact I did have quite a headwind into my face on the day, which got quite strong at some points, to be honest. Now, longest on the day for the F9 was a carry of 249 yards, 267 yards total distance, and ball speed 160 miles per hour, while with the Darkspeed it was 250 yards carry and 265 yards total distance, with a ball speed 161 miles per hour. Look, both of those shots launching at 9 degrees, while the shortest with the F9 was 251 yards total, while the Darkspeed was 253 yards. When it came down to feel, both very similar feel. I'd say the Darkspeed definitely pips it a little bit for it. Definitely when my misses were. Here's the table, by the way, for you guys to have a look with those averages. So yeah, Darkspeed, as I mentioned, had a bit better feel. I felt I was more consistent with the Darkspeed, so those numbers were closer together, even though the F9 technically was the longest, but it was also the shortest. Felt like the Darkspeed had a little bit more forgiveness, and noise-wise, very similar. Liked both the noises of this club and enjoyed hitting them both, really. So as you can tell from the figures here, there's really not that much separating these two clubs, as you'd expect, because technology hasn't moved on.
So there you go. And some really good results. You know, on average, we had a carry of 246 yards with this. Total distance 260 yards. Ball speed 157 miles per hour. Launch angle 11 degrees and height 95 feet. While with this, we had only a carry of 243 yards. Total distance 258 yards. Ball speed 159 miles per hour. Launch angle 9 and height 80 feet. Not bad with that headwind, to be honest. I think these both would have been around the 270 mark on average, I think, without that wind in my face. So really pleased with those numbers for both these clubs, to be fair, on a very tricky day. Going into the longest for this was total distance of 267 yards, the ball speed 160 miles per hour. It's also the best ball speed I had. Launch angle 9, height 73 feet, and a carry, by the way, of 249 yards. With this, the longest was 250 yards carry, 265 yards total distance, a ball speed 161 miles per hour, launch angle 9 again, and height 82 feet. So obviously just maybe a little bit low spinner with this. It's got that little bit more distance out in the wind. Just obviously just roll that a little bit more than this one, which obviously maybe got, you know, just floated up a little bit too much into that wind, possibly to not get quite as much distance as this, but still. Shortest on the day was 240 yards carry with this, 251 yards total distance, ball speed of only 153 miles per hour, launch angle 12 and height 106 feet. While this one was 242 yards, total distance 253 yards, ball speed 153 miles per hour. So same ball speed there, height 12 degrees, same launch, and height 99 feet. So there you go. But one thing I will say between these two clubs, this one definitely had a closer sort of, you know, closer numbers, I would say, than this one. This one was a little bit more dispersed, which I definitely think is down to the forgiveness. I would probably say this has got a touch more forgiveness than this. Not a huge amount, because, as I mentioned, you can't really be changing technology over these years, but definitely a little bit more forgiveness. So on paper, yes, we do have a winner, and it would be the F9. On the day, the F9 definitely did beat the Darkspeed, even though it did it with 2 yards. It still technically won it. But I will definitely say this one was a little bit more consistent than the F9. But then that could just be down to my swings. Take it as you want. But yeah, I just felt a bit more comfortable about this. And doing this, to be fair, you know, at the end, I was like, oh, this has definitely won it. You know, better ball speed, whatever. And I didn't realise that this has actually won it. You know, it had a few. I think I had a few around that two. Yeah, two. I had two at 267. Two of them. So yeah, not bad at all. Well, that 265 was the longest this one did, but it had quite a few ball speeds over 160 this, while this obviously didn't, you know, did hit the 160 mark, but didn't quite get over it like this one. And only hit the 160 mark once on it. So going further into this, because obviously we got the distance and we got this as a winner. Quickly going through the ACS Golf scale for both of these. Remember, we've got distance, feel, looks, price, and forgiveness. 5 being the best, 1 being the worst. Now for me, distance-wise, both giving them a 4. Feel-wise, giving this a 4.5, this a 3.5. Remember, I'll delve more into this coming weekend. Just felt like this feels a lot nicer than this one. Looks, 5. And the Darkspeed, the whole black one. I mean, this is gorgeous, but the black one is awesome. This a 4. Love the bottom of it, really do. And in the blue as well, looks gorgeous. Not a fan of the top. This looks a bit dated now, perhaps you could say, maybe. But there you go. Price. Let's not really discuss price, because we'll discuss price between these two now. I was looking at this one. This is brand new. So there you go. Forgiveness. I've given this a 4. I've given this a 3.5. I definitely feel there's a little bit more forgiveness in that, and it can show with that sort of average. Yes, don't get me wrong, this did win and the average did win, but it was just, there was a bigger gap between my longest and my furthest. And, you know, it's not that consistent, while this was very lumped around, you know, and maybe had that shorter one that just wasn't quite a good hit, but just felt more consistent with this one, especially ball flight and where it was going, than this one. but not a huge amount, 3.5 to 4, and maybe another day I would have given this a 4. But let's just quickly discuss price for this. So on Golf Bidder, which is a second-hand market in the UK, you can pick up a Darkspeed X for £218 roughly. That's about $300. You can pick up one of these for £170, which is around $230. This has held its value very, very well because it's a very popular driver. It's a very sought after driver because it is a very good driver. Do not get me wrong, this really is. And he's shown it today because it has technically beaten the newer Darkspeed. eBay Darkspeed, you can pick up ones brand new now for £230, roughly around $310. Or you can get them even second hand, and really they range from about £195, so $260 up to sort of £220, which is around $300, which I don't really understand because you can buy a brand new one for like an extra 10 quid. So anyway, some people like that. And then this ranges, so £150-ish, around $200, and it goes all the way up to about £190, which is around $256. So they're not hugely off themselves. I mean, you're saving yourself £30 maybe to get this secondhand over this. Now, for me, some of you might disagree with me, but it's a no-brainer. Yes, on the day, this won, but remember, this is from 2019. This is a very popular driver. You're going to find it hard to find one in good condition like this, to be fair. I mean, it's not great, but, they're going to be used because they are very popular and they're very good. While the Darkspeed is going to be 1 year old, it's going to be less used. So an extra 30 quid, I'd be going for that. For a little bit more forgiveness as well, I probably would be going for the Darkspeed over the F9. And then in that middle, you've got the Aerojet, you've got the LTDX, you've got so many other really decent Cobra Cubs in between these two that perform just as well as them both, and will probably come in maybe even a bit cheaper than both of these. So do be aware of that, but there you go. So overall, let's get to this conclusion. So who's the overall winner on the day? It is the Cobra F9, hands down. Won it by 2 yards. It was 2 yards. Double check. Yeah, won it by 2 yards, even though the ball speed was 2 miles per hour slower. On the day, this bad boy won. Hats off to it. However, if I was going to decide and have to play one of these two, I would spend the extra 20 quid and get one of these just because it's going to be in a newer condition and it's going to give me a touch more forgiveness. And I think on the other day, I think this could probably pip this one. And that's the thing to take away from this video. Even though, yes, this one, they're so close together, literally another day, maybe this would have won it. So yeah, there you go. But firstly for me, I'd probably be picking this one up over this one. However, if you want to go for this, you're going to get just as good performance as this one. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed this versus video. Do remember to subscribe to the channel if you did, because I do have a few more coming out before the year end. Also, comment down below, which of these two drivers would you pick? And also let me know if you want to see any other versus videos to come out. And if I have the equipment, I will try and do it. Also, do give this video a like if you enjoyed it. And I'll see you this Sunday for the review of the Cobra F9. All right, guys, catch you soon for the next ACS Golf video. See you then. Bye-bye.